Danielle, welcome to the Standing Light podcast. I'm just so excited to shine a light on you today.
Much for having me. So happy to be here.
So I want to just jump right into it. I know that you started and continue your company in a very intuitive way. It resonated so much because that's exactly how Standing Light was born. I still to this day don't have a business plan, and it was born from my heart, and it continues to be birthed from that space, right? And I want to hear how that has been for you, what that journey has looked like for you, because it just was so inspiring to hear you. And I'd love to go deeper into the power and the intelligence of the heart with you, hearing your perspective from like an astrological way as well.
Absolutely. So, I can only speak on my journey, and I never actually got into this to be, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to pop up all these things. And there's nothing wrong with that. Actually, I think that's badass for people that are. I'm just explaining my experience. I got into this because I had a massive, massive awakening when I was 30 years old, which is now 14 years ago. And I was blasted open by the universe. It was grueling. It was painful. I was confused. I was sad. It was a journey for me to let go of the density of my old self. And so in that process, I began to remember and understand who I truly am, beyond the programs of the first 30 years. And we're all programmed. It's part, you come into birth, you step into this matrix and you step into these programs. Mm-hmm. So my journey, when that happened with my awakening, it was like, oh, okay, there's some gifts here. And I say gifts, and we all have gifts. I'm just speaking again for like what was coming through. I'm like, there's some gifts here. This is right. Like I'm in tune. There's a world beyond what the physical world that we see, which I didn't know. I literally went from one day being so in the matrix, right, to the next day seeing spirits. And I know that I think when you were younger, you saw spirits and you grew up like that. I didn't. Everything was so blocked and shut down. So I literally had no idea about anything. And then it was one day, Pandora's box opened, right? The floodgates were open. So that was shocking to me. So I had to learn. So going back to your question, so I got into this because I knew this was my purpose and my path. We could call it a healer. A lot of people don't like that word. They get mad when you use it because I understand we're all healing ourselves. But whatever you want to call it, a guide, a leader, a speaker, whatever, doesn't matter. They're all just names. Mm-hmm. I got into this because this was a deep calling in my soul, and I resonated with why I came to Earth. Granted, there's not one reason why we come to Earth. There's many, but this was a huge journey in my awakening of why I'm here, where I need to go forward. And me denying this was like me denying that, like, oh, I have dark hair, right? It's like, obviously I have dark hair. I can't pretend like I have blonde hair right now. Yeah. Right. So me denying that would be me denying my truth and my existence. And even in the confusion and this journey, because, I was learning about 14 years ago, who was talking about consciousness and dimensions and timelines and any keywords that we use for this. This is what spirit was teaching me. And I had no books, no really understanding. I had one person that was helping me through this to kind of clear the density, but I was super confused. So again, going back to this, I got in this to follow my path, to help people evolve on this journey in life. So with that, I then had to learn, oh, okay, I have to learn online marketing. I have to learn funnels. I have to learn, right? I'm like, what the hell is all this, right? So that was my 30s. People are like, what were you doing in your 30s? Well, I was on my knees crying, begging the universe to make me just become an accountant, or could I just become a lawyer like everyone else, right? And that wasn't my path. And then I was learning this online world and what it means and how to even do this. So there's all these things. So when I say I follow my intuition for business, that is 100% accurate. Does that mean that I don't have assistants to help me? No, I have a team of people to help me because there's no way I'd be able to do it on my own. Does that mean I'm not even looking at 2023 right now and being like, okay, well, what do I want to do? And when do I want to launch it? Absolutely. But the reality is the way I work, I have to feel into this. So like I wasn't planning on doing anything for December, and now 2 to 3 things came up for December, intuitively came through, and I was like, oh, okay, guess I'm doing those things for December when I had plans to take off, right? So I am guided and I'm listening. And I think the biggest thing to understand here is I will never do anything just to make money. In fact, I could have launched my astrology mystery school again for the second time this year, and I would have made a shit ton of money for this year. And granted, I have made a lot of money this year, and I'm not afraid to talk about money. I think people are in the spiritual world say, "Oh, it's taboo. You can't talk." No, no, no. I love money. Money loves me, and money loves you too. We just need to get past the programs of it. So it's okay to make money and also help people evolve, because I'm breaking through all those, they're all programs. Okay. So going back to this, I could have made so much more money if I would have launched this. And I tuned in and I was like, no, I'm tired. I don't want to launch this. I'm doing a bunch of other things. And whereas I think the difference is there's a lot of people in this coaching world that will just do stuff for the numbers. Oh, I want to make this number. I want to make this number. I want to make this number. So they launch stuff. And again, to each their own. I'm not here to say right or wrong, but you asked about my journey. My journey is always listening to my soul, honoring my heart, honoring my lifestyle, and being successful from that place. I think that's what sets me apart, is I have been successful, honoring my heart, trusting my intuition, and living in alignment with what works for me, because I'm not like a generator. I'm not a manifesting generator. I am tired. I need to rest my body. My body is extremely sensitive. So I have to go at the pace that works for me. That's why it might have taken me a little bit longer to get to this place. But what is time anyways? Because I had to honor what was right for my path. And I think a lot of people that are new and starting out, they think that they have to do all the things. And I get it. It's a process, again, of unlearning, but you have to do what works for you and what is authentic to you. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful. You could have all the money in your bank, but that doesn't mean you're happy or successful.
Right. I love that. And, I mean, once you understand the energetics of the heart itself, like the electromagnetic field, and, it magnetizes and we communicate on a cellular level, heart to heart, we actually, that is the psychic part of us. It's the sixth sense, right? So we can fake it till we make it, but people that live from that space or know how to sense and exist and read and feel from that space, they're going to be able to sense that you're faking it, right? But I think, I mean, that's not to say that faking till you make it is a bad thing. Because I think you could already live in the future version of it.
Different vibration of, oh my God, I have all these things. Being egotistical versus
Right.
being heart-centered and calling in that which you desire. It's a very different frequency.
Completely. Yes, exactly. It's such an important thing to acknowledge, especially for people starting out. I think I get it. If you're starting out and you're really trying to build on build your finances up, that's the main priority, right? Get that, been there. But once you get to a more stable place, and even before that, if you recognize that what you really love to do is going to get you money anyway, because that's the resonance. And I've just been watching you really do that. And it's just been so fun. I think that's what it is. It's like so many people follow you and love you because you literally have fun with it.
Yeah. I cry a lot and I let go and I feel my emotions. Right. I share it all.
Totally.
It's real.
It's the whole spectrum of emotion. Like we're here to feel it and be in it. Right. But that is the fun, playful part, right? When we don't make one or the other emotion wrong and we just let the emotion actually be energy in motion, which is what it is, right? And just let it channel through us and like move through us. That's when we're self-regulating and living in our full potential and playing with it, and through it. And I don't know, that's one thing I feel with you. It's you're constantly, whether you're on the floor crying your eyes out or high on life and just like celebrating one of your epic many successes, you're authentic in this playful way where you're just you're honoring all facets of the human experience and the spectrum of emotion. And I think that's what probably attracts a lot of people to you, you know, because you're just in that play and it's fun to watch. At least I have fun watching you.
That truly means a lot to me, because it is not easy sharing your life online. There is a lot of judgment. I can say one word, I can say the word alligator. Here I'm in Florida, right? I can say the word alligator and someone's like, you said that wrong, you know, and it's like, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to get shit by people that are wounded and projecting their stuff onto you. So it is hard sometimes to constantly just open up Instagram and there's someone yelling about something. And while none of it matters, because it's really just a reflection of self, you know, their own pain, nobody wants to be around that. So thank you for saying that, because I am true. What you see is what you get. If you meet me in person, it's going to be exactly the same thing. There's no difference. I'll say something online that I'll say something in person. I think the only thing that some people say in person, you know, I'm actually am more like quiet, like, because people don't see, like, yeah, they see me online, but when I'm not online, I'm reading, I am meditating, I am stretching, I am doing yoga, I am praying, I am processing, I am journaling. I spend a lot of time alone, you know,
Crying,
so
laughing.
totally. So like, that's, you know, like, that's what you see is what you get always.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we met in I don't know how long ago it was. This was years ago.
It was at that event in New York, and you came up to me, and I'm so glad you did. And I was like, hi. And then I just loved your energy right away. You were so feminine, beautiful, and just like energetically, I'm like, oh, I love her. And so that was it.
We had a mutual friend that wrote to me and said, Danielle is also going to be there. You guys have to connect. You know, you have this really soft energy, and it's demure, it's subtle, it's soft in person. And then I see you online, you're just like fully in your fire and goddess energy, and you're just like saying it as it is. And it's refreshing, you know? I mean, there's so much out there nowadays. And I actually would like to shine a light on this, because my mom's been obsessed with astrology since I was a little girl. We have like Gary Goldschneider, like huge red and blue books. And you know, she's just like, she brought me into this world. So I've been in it, but I'm still a novice. And yet the way that you talk about astrology has always really been inspiring to me, because you don't fixate on something. I remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd actually love to talk about this. I remember you saying that you don't do relationship charts because you're all about the soul and the soul connection.
Maybe I said that, but I don't do sun sign astrology. And maybe that's what it was, where it's just like, okay, Pisces can be compatible with Capricorn or whatever. I don't do that because it's based on so much more. I have in the past done relationship charts. It takes a lot. You have to look at mine, the other person's, and then the three and the chart together. So you have to look at 3 charts. So it just takes a lot of time. But yes, it is, to go back to what you were saying, any soul can be with any soul. It doesn't matter in the chart, in the sense of, can we be together or not? Will this show that we will get married or not? Will this show that we're going to break up or not? Because any 2 charts can be together if you make it work. What the charts show you is, okay, this person has a communication style of this, and you have a communication style of this, and I can see that this 2 is clashing. So does that mean that you 2 can't be together? No, every relationship has challenges and struggles. So it's just going to be like, okay, this person doesn't want to talk about it, this person does, so how could you meet in the middle? So that's where I think it was, where no charts show if you're going to be together or not. And that's where a lot of people kind of miss the mark on this, and they get fixated. They say, oh, our charts say we're going to be together. And I'm like, no charts say you're going to be together. It's based on your soul contract. I have seen people that I've met in my life of the most beautiful charts. And when we put them together, what people write about in astrology books of, like, you know, compatibility. But I really didn't have feelings for that. Like, I like them, but I didn't really want to be with them, and vice versa. And that just goes down to, it's our free will. And then I've had charts where I'm like, this is really challenging. And I'm like, I was madly in love with this person. They were madly in love with me. So again, the chart, basic novice astrology will think that like, oh, I can't be with this person because I have this and the chart shows this. That's not true. We have to go beyond that and understand that the chart's going to show you how you work together. And then what you do from there is up to you. Does that make sense?
100%. And it goes, so with the work I do, it's like you're approaching it from unity consciousness, from the soul consciousness versus the binary dualistic, logical aspect. And that's why I love how you do astrology or how you share it, because it resonates on that level, right? It's like, it's not a yes or no. It's not a black or white. It's not a wrong or right. It just is for you or not for you, however it's meant to be. And I get that as well. I mean, I've had relationships where it was just the most profoundly deep soul karmic connection, and we needed to go through it. And if we didn't, we would be all the lesser for it. Yes, it was horribly painful and
I remember those with you. Yep.
super triggering. But I even remembered our past lives. I knew why in this lifetime we met again to exchange the codes that we needed to exchange. And there would have been, right? I think, and this goes for every one of those twin flame, soulmate relationships, whatever you want to call them, there's always a possibility of it working out or not. But if it's not in your highest good, in both of your highest goods, and if you kind of, one person goes this way and the other goes that way. I heard the best phrase once from a really dear friend of mine. She said, Leyla, it's every relationship is either for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I carry that with me all the time, because most relationships, even friendships, will be for a reason and a season, right? But then obviously the lifetime ones.
I've had lots of seasons, let me tell you. You don't get to 44 without having lots of seasons and reasons. We're looking for the lifetime.
And it will come in divine timing.
1,000%. He's literally in my vortex right now and so close that I can feel him. It's wild. And so many people feel him too. It's crazy.
Oh my
I already
goodness.
know so much about him and I haven't even met him. It's like crazy.
No, it's not. I get that. Okay. So when you meet him, how do you, knowing what you know, go about that? Are you the type that will like get his birth information ASAP?
I'm gonna kick him in the nuts and say, what took you so long? Just
okay. Step number one.
I'm just kidding.
Here's a bag of ice.
Yeah. Oh my God. Finally. Just kidding. It was me too. It takes two to tango,
Of course. It's a soul alignment. Yeah. Okay. But how important is it for you to also know somebody's chart when you're?
Absolutely. Listen, there are some things in the chart that are definitely challenging, that you take note of, but absolutely, because I want to understand him on every level. I want to know his human design. I want to connect with his soul. I want to know his astrology. I want to know how he wants to be loved so that I can love him like that. And I want to know everything about him. And that also includes conversations, laying in bed for hours, naked, true intimacy. So it's all levels, but I can't wait to see but there's his astrology. It doesn't matter what it is because it's already a soul connection is what I'm trying to say. But absolutely, like, let's see where your moon is. Let's see how you react with your behavioral patterns. Let's see where your Mercury is. I want to know how you think. Are there any squares to your Mercury? Do you feel blocked in any way? Let's understand each other. And this is my chart, and I'm going to explain it to him as well. And this is how I want to be loved. And let's do this together, it's so fun. So fun.
There are soul blueprints, our soul business plans, actually, in some way, right? I love that. I love how you just explained that. Because I think, I hear so often from very logical people, oh, well, that's just woo-woo stuff, astrology. I mean, you probably get this all the time. And
I hear it all the time.
You know what I mean?
But it doesn't really bother me. It's just like, okay, you're not there yet. And when you are, come back. We'll have fun.
How would you describe astrology? Like how do you sense it from Danielle's perspective? Like, how do you perceive it and experience it?
So I want to start off with saying that I definitely don't know or understand everything. I
Mhm.
also have been doing this for 14 years, and I don't need to do astrology. I didn't do it because like, oh, I had nothing else to do in life, and so let me do this. I continue to do it because I continue to see patterns that play out over time.
Mhm.
The biggest thing in 2019, I told in November of 2019, I was like, 2020 is going to be a shit show. You guys like take a deep breath. And everyone's like, no, 2020 vision. And I'm like, sorry, bitches. It's not going to be like that, right? And they're like, you're so negative. And I'm like, nope, just speaking the truth. Right. So my point is, and of course we don't know to what level, but we can see the patterns.
Right, right.
There are patterns that play out. So to go back and answer your question, I see it as our psychological blueprints of
Mhm.
how we are wired upon birth. And these are the right planetary energetics to help us play out our life. So they talk a lot about our personality self, and it's a vessel. And here's the thing is I don't get fixated. I'm like, oh, I'm a Taurus, and so I can't do this. Like, I'm not doing that. It's more of an understanding, oh, I'm a Taurus, so I have a tendency to do this, and that's a shadow. But what's the higher octave of it? So let's move into the higher octave so that I can use my personality self to express what my soul came here to do, right? It's funny because we've talked about Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've gone to some of his things. You've gone to some of his things. He hates astrology. He's like, I don't care. And he hates this. And I understand why he hates it, because people do use it as an excuse, but he also doesn't understand the true science and the true mysticism behind it, because there are all behavioral patterns that we play out. And the more that you know yourself, the more you can get out of your way and then become that channel for everything to come through. So it really depends on how you use astrology. So in some ways, I understand why he hates it, because of how it's like dumbed down, but that's not the real truth of astrology.
Right. Well, it's more about how people abuse of it, right? And make it
Yeah.
their crutch or their enabler.
Yes.
But, and I get that. I mean,
Yeah.
for myself, I know when I'm not in a good place, that's when I listen to more astrology than ever, because I'm almost trying to have something validate my emotions, right?
But I think that's also good when you're not in a good place to understand what's the cosmic rhythm. Like during eclipse season,
Totally.
emotions are heightened. So I think that it can be used in a beautiful place, not as in a shadow way. And that's what I try to teach people. Day one of astrology mystery school, I'm like, astrology is the most amazing tool, but it's not everything. And I will never pretend like it's everything, because there are many tools in the universe to use. This is one that I've done for many lifetimes, many dimensions, parallel lives, past, whatever you want to call it, is my soul has done. And so I'm teaching the magic of our soul, and it's to get us back in touch with who we are, not so we can use, oh, I'm a Capricorn moon, so I can't do this. No, saying I'm a Capricorn moon, so I have a tendency to do this, until I learn that I can best use it like this to get out of my way. You have a Capricorn moon, right?
I have a Scorpio
No.
moon.
Oh, okay, that's right. That's right. Yeah, because I'm like, I looked at your chart years ago.
I know. Yeah, Scorpio moon, ascendant Scorpio.
Right. That's why you feel so much. And that's the thing. Let's use your chart, for example. Your Scorpio moon. There is zero chance the Scorpio moon is going to be the same as an Aquarius moon. It's just, there's no way in hell, and the moon is our emotions, our behavioral patterns. So you have a water sign moon, one of the deepest moons there is. So are you going to feel things on a deeper level than some people? Absolutely. Is it important to understand so you don't blame yourself? Don't say, what's wrong with me? Don't say I'm too sensitive. No, you have to understand this is how you're wired, and this is what's going to help you on your journey. That's why I love it. And again, in Aquarius, I have a good friend that's an Aquarius moon, and her husband, they always used to bring me over for they used to say, we're going to make you dinner. And no, it was like therapy between them, right? And so, because they're my good friends.
Wait, you were the therapist, or they were your
They would put me in the middle as the therapist, yeah, because they trusted me with their birth chart. And he's like a sun, moon, and rising, I think, are all water. Okay, so he's very emotional, and she was fire and Sagittarius sun and Aquarius moon. So he's like, I just want you to tell me how I feel. And she's like, I don't know how I feel. And I was like, and there you have it, folks. That's an Aquarius moon, and she's not lying. It was so funny, right? So it's like, once you understand that she will never be like you, and you will never be like her, so where can you meet in the middle? Because you guys are not wired the same.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. I mean, my mom always says, read your chart, Leyla, read it. Like I
Yeah.
have Venus in Gemini.
Me too. Me
Really?
too. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, I've been hearing this all along, and I read it, and it is supportive. And when I say, by the way, that when I'm not in a good place, that's when I turn to astrology the most, because I I feel crazy, right? In those moments. And I feel it so deeply, and I feel everything and everyone so deeply that it helps me not feel as crazy. It helps me not feel as alone. So that's when I turn to it. And
It's
then
so
I'm also,
powerful.
yeah. And I'm also aware that when I am thriving, I don't need it as much, because I'm already just like, I then have enough power to start going beyond beliefs and whatnot, and going beyond whatever it may be, my Venus and Gemini, or you know what I mean? Like just those things
Oh,
that
yeah.
might,
I mean, listen,
using the
the
higher
chart
aspect
side
of
of
it.
Venus and Gemini gets me in trouble all the time, especially in my 30s. I mean, it is flirty, it is interested. I like when I was on the apps in my 30s, like the dating apps, I would be talking to like 10 guys at once. And like I can shoot the shit. I could do, like literally like someone could hire me to like chit chat with people. Like that's just like my thing. But then I realized one day, wait a minute, this is not actually what I want. Like it was fun to me. I enjoyed the banter. But then I was like, it gets shadowy because I'm like, no, but I want a relationship. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not trying to talk to 10 guys at once, but like I'm so good at it. So I'm not saying I'm dating or sleeping with 10 guys. I'm saying I'm chatting with 10 guys at once. Big difference, people. So, but then I was like, but that's a shadow side. So, you have to learn. I'm like, oh, I can see that. So it gets me in trouble sometimes because I like the witty banter. I like to be flirty,
Yeah.
but then I was like, oh, but I'm not really taking this seriously.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. Yeah, I hear you.
yeah.
I love it how astrology can really be such a guide, and it really has been for me so much. And tell us a little bit about Astrology Mystery School.
Oh, yes. So this came about years ago, honestly, like maybe 2016 it started. What are we in 2022, almost 2023?
Mm.
So it really came from everyone asking me, please teach us astrology.
Mhm.
And so Astrology Mystery School came about and it's evolved over time and it's my signature course. We'll be launching it again in 2023. I love doing it. So here's the thing. Astrology to me is very basic. I have evolved beyond that. However, I do this because I love helping people understand who they are. And this is a beautiful baseline. And not only do they understand themselves, they understand their partner, they understand their children, they understand their boss, right? And then we have more compassion. And when we have more understanding for ourselves, we're not projecting, we're not yelling, we're taking responsibility. So my course, it's now a 10-week course. And it is more than astrology because it is a soul elevation. So I tell people, be ready because your entire life is going to change. Like, yes, we learn astrology, but I'm teaching you to connect back with your soul. And it is more than they could even imagine. It is not your basic bitch astrology course at all.
That should be the slogan.
Oh my God, that should be. That's it. I'm going to add that one for next year. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love that. That is so, because I say that all the time and I never thought about putting that together. I love it. It's not your basic bitch astrology course.
It's not. I mean, nothing that you do is. And
No,
that's
it's
why it's so
deep.
refreshing. You go really deep, you go into the soul of the matter. And that's why, heart and soul are one and the same. I mean, the heart
Yes,
is the home of the soul. And we definitely need to co-create something together one day, because
totally.
it's so powerful when you understand the infrastructure, AKA astrology, in which you kind of operate in, but then you go into your soul and you recognize its truest desires, like your heart's truest desires, right? And then when you reconnect to this part of you, your heart, your soul, and you start to actually move your awareness from your head into your heart and live from this space, live from your soul knowing, from your soul desire, from your heart desire, from your heart intelligence, the wisdom. I mean, this is where we were destined and actually innately originally designed to operate from, right? And you talk about programs, like that's exactly what happened. We enter first grade, and usually it happens even before that, but at the latest first grade, when we're 6 years old, it's like, boom, rip out of your heart, put into your head and only programmed with the head brain, which is, it's powerful, but the heart brain is so much more powerful, right?
So much more powerful. I have a story that I would love to share that I think it's so appropriate for this and for everything that you do and talk about. So
Yeah.
when I had my awakening, again, it's a long story. We can't get
Mm.
into it here. It's on my podcast, Cosmic Body Podcast, episode 1 and 2, because it was so long.
Wow.
But when I had my awakening, my gifts came out basically because they've been kind of shut down for so long, and they blasted open. So literally, when I say I went one day just being in the matrix to the next day seeing through the matrix, seeing spirits with my eyes. In meditation, I would open my eyes. I would usually sit in front of my mirror, so then I would see my aura, and then I would ask questions, and they would start to show me things with symbols clairvoyantly. So it didn't exist. It was in, it's like a hologram that I would see with my eyes. At this point, because of like running a business and doing so much, I'm still clairvoyant, but not to that level. But one thing lesson for people is I learned that they needed to use that in the beginning. So I got the message because they needed to see it. Now I don't need to, it doesn't need to be that jarring. So they use other modalities, other parts of my body, right? For everyone else. Okay. So in the beginning, spirit was my teacher, and they were guiding me, go to meditate. And I'm like, I don't even know what meditation is at that point. I didn't know. And they would guide me, so it's like whispers in your head, you just like subtleties in your head guiding you. So spirit was my first teacher. And at that point, it's ironic, it's funny, because I was communicating with them, because otherwise I wouldn't even know to be in meditation. I wouldn't know to go here and go do that. And they were guiding me to meet certain people that were helping me in my journey. And I kept saying, how do I connect with you? How do I connect with you? Spirit, I want to connect with you. Because I thought in the beginning, and you have to understand, this is 14 years ago. Nobody was talking about this. I thought they were going to be like, hi, Danielle, we are here today, and we're going to tell you to, it's like, I thought it was like a game show host or something, like I literally thought that's how
You
it
were
was
being
going to
punked.
be.
Ashton
Totally.
Kutcher was going to show up.
Totally. That's what I thought. So I was like, waiting for that. I honestly had no idea. And I was like, how do I communicate with you? How do I communicate with you? Thinking I'm not, but I already am. And they showed me a heart. So they showed me a heart literally right in front of me. Like, here's the thing, when people do ayahuasca, when people do mushrooms, they see things. Well, I saw all that stuff sober. Okay. So,
exactly. All you need is the medicine, the heart. I say this all the time.
Totally. So they showed me the heart.
Mm.
And at first I'm like, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? And it took me about 6-7 years to fully understand, because you have to remember, I was on this journey in my early 30s, 14 years ago. Not really, there wasn't as much accessibility to spirituality as it is now. So I didn't know, and I had to learn. It took me about 6-7 years to understand. They meant I need to connect with my heart, because that's where everything resides. And so my journey with this has been coming back to my awakened heart, and everything comes through my heart. If I'm not making money, if I'm feeling off, if I'm not meeting the right people, it's because I'm not connected to my heart. So that was a major lesson. And I've been talking, same with you, I've been talking about heart intelligence forever. In 2016, I think it was, I think it's 15 or 16, I did a course called Purposely Divine, because I got this message that we're all purposely divine. And one of the modules was on the hearts, on how everything, because this is the 5 things that Spirit told me on my path, how to connect and how to go on the journey of awakening, and the heart. So I was teaching the heart before I knew about heart math, before I knew about Dr. Joe Dispenza talking about it, before I knew it. I just went with what Spirit told me, right? And so it's just so interesting. So yeah, they showed me a heart, and that's the way to connect, because that is our soul.
Oh my gosh. I feel like we have parallel lives sometimes.
Yes.
I think, Spirit drops these seeds of wisdom all around, right? It uses the field of earth to kind of drop those seeds of wisdom. And some of us will pick them up and our lives will change forever. Some of us will just kind of like put it in the back of our subconscious and be like, oh, whatever, and we'll just completely ignore it. But that's how Standing Light was born, actually, because I was in chemistry class going over chemical compounds, and I was bored out of my mind. And I was always an artist at heart. I was always very creative and a very visual person. So I started doodling what my chemical compound could potentially be. So I'm literally doodling all the different shapes and astrology, right? So I drew the Aries symbol, right? The like that horned or winged horn or whatever. And then the dragon, because I'm also a dragon in Chinese astrology. Like I was just putting all the different compounds that made me up on a paper.
All the
And next,
archetypes.
yes. And next thing you know, I literally was looking at a shape of a heart, because the top part of it is the Aries, and then the bottom is the Roman numeral 5, which I'm born April 5th.
Mhm.
So in that moment, and when I was 16 years old, I was in 10th grade, I had my first out of body experience, and I'm shot out of my body. I'm looking down at myself, looking at this heart, realizing that that's quote unquote my chemical compound. And I heard this voice, because I was just asking, what on earth is going on right now? What does this mean? Why does my birthday create a heart? And it was just, it felt so significant to me, yet I had no clue. I had no idea what was going on and what that meant. And next thing you know, I heard spirit say, Leyla, you're not going to understand this, and you're not meant to understand this now, but when it's time, you will. So I literally, as soon as I left class, I figured out how to get a fake ID so that I could go get a tattoo and get that shape tattooed on myself.
I love it. I love it.
And then years later, I would hear about heart math, Dronvella Melchizedek. I mean, just like all the heart teachers, you know, besides the ancient ones that have been talking about this, from whether Buddha, Jesus, Rumi, you know, I mean, it's always been there. It's been here forever, literally since the beginning of time. It's just that now, slowly but surely, we are shifting back into our original state of being, which is in and from the heart. It's the first, there's no reason, like, it's not a coincidence that our heart is the first organ that grows in uterus, right? So I always say, like, the heart meets soul, light, love, light, unite in the womb, and then boom, we become and grow into who we are. And the more, yeah, I mean, this is why I created this podcast, to talk about this, right? And to bring all these different perspectives, whether it's astrology or even branding and marketing, like any aspect of it that makes up the human consciousness. Once we find that way back into the heart, we've won.
That's why I always say with astrology mystery school, I'm like, it's the language of your soul, which is the language of the stars.
I love that. How do you see this, like, dimensional reality? Because I feel like I've heard, and I'm just curious from your perspective and what you've experienced, because I know you've, since your big blasting wake up call, you've been communing and evolving higher and higher and deeper. There's talks about there only being 9 dimensions, but then I've had experiences in the 12th dimension, for example. I'm curious how you see it, and maybe even from the perspective of the stars, like how do you see that?
I don't listen or believe anything that is in a book. And the reality is, even if it's in a book, there is more information beyond that. We are so multidimensional.
Yeah.
We are unlimited, that for us to even say there's 9 dimensions, there might be 9 dimensions in our construct, in the sense of our awareness right now. Sure. But the more that I learn, the more that I know that I know.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like I have all the answers, because I don't. And honestly, I don't think anyone does. And yes, there are some people that this is their job and they are straight channel and they'll get information. Absolutely. But they're still only getting a certain amount of information. You have to understand that there are no limits with information. That's why when you open up and you connect to spirit, you can get information that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And then people try to understand, and they spend hours and days and weeks trying to find meaning. And I'm like, honestly, you're just open to the field, like, let it go.
Yeah.
So anyone can be psychic and intuitive. Not anyone can have the mastery of understanding this on a higher dimensional level, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah.
And I don't have all the answers. I don't know. I
Nobody
don't
does.
believe that we're limited to this. And also, we're just calling it ninth plane, 10th plane, these are still human words to describe it in a human language.
Mm.
It's not a human language. So we actually can't really grasp it, but we are just labeling it things because of what we know.
Mhm.
But there's more stuff beyond what we know.
Yeah, it's so true. And I mean, none of us know everything. I mean, we're all just figuring this thing called being human out on a daily basis. And
Every single day. And then you find out you're not even human. Like my soul's not even from this galaxy. And I think there was like people like making fun of me for one time that I said that. And I'm like, I'm going to repeat that 1,000 more times that people were making fun of me. And I'm like, I'm sorry that you just think that you are from here. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
at least I know enough to know that I'm not even from this galaxy. That's why being
Mhm.
human in this body has been very challenging for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Here we are.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I do too.
Yep. I
There's
know
so
you
much
get
more.
it.
Yeah. There's so much more that our mind could never even comprehend. But
Absolutely.
when you tune into the intelligence, the ancient wisdom of the heart, you're operating from your soul, which just goes so far beyond the mind, right? And it starts to perceive nudges and feelings and ideas and whatnot. And then you just start to construct what resonates the most with you. And what resonates the most with me is probably going to be completely different to you, and vice versa. And, it's like, we're all just these facets of a whole diamond that are shining our light in however feels best for us. And together, if we don't judge constantly ourselves first and foremost, but then also one another for you not sounding exactly the way I sound, or you not doing exactly or believing exactly the thing that I believe in, we get to actually all shine in that whole spectrum of light together. And
Yeah.
gosh, I hope that we somehow get to that point while
When
we're
I
still
see
alive.
totally, and when I see people um like making comments and judge, well, I mean, first of all, what's the quickest way to block your heart is to judge,
Yep.
right? So, and when I see people saying, "Oh my God, they're full of shit," and I'm like, well, just because you might not have access right now at the state because you're judging, right? You can't be in higher dimensional states and judging people all day long. You're not going to have access through your hearts.
Mm-mm.
So just because you can't perceive it doesn't mean it's not true.
Exactly.
And I always say, listen, there's a lot of people online that don't resonate with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just let them be on their journey. I'm not going to talk about them. I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to talk shit. I'm just going to let people be on their journey, because we don't have to resonate with everyone, but we also don't have to throw shade, judge, and make fun of other people.
We definitely don't have
That's
to.
just it. That's just it. Right.
Yeah.
The wounded soul will do that. And that's why when people are making fun of me, when people are making fun of other people, it's like, all right, I'm sorry that you're so miserable. Like, you actually need a hug more than anything else.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's fucking hard to be here. I am sorry you are struggling. Like, what happened that hurts you so bad? Because I fucking get it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've all been there. We've all gone
Yep.
through that
Yep.
deep, deep pain.
But
But
that takes responsibility and awareness to admit, yeah, I'm fucking bitter. I'm doing this. I'm saying this, and that's why I'm acting like that, you know? And not everybody with the consciousness where we're at, does not have the consciousness to take responsibility and even see that awareness. Right. And we are moving into that. We're moving into higher states of awareness, but it's definitely not all there. I mean, just look at 2020. My God. I mean, that was just like the biggest shit show ever, of people, being in so much fear and then screaming at others and then calling them names if they didn't want to do something. I mean, like, come on, ridiculous, ridiculous.
I mean, the purge is real. I think it's just the darkness, the shadow that has been so hidden for so long to our collective consciousness is just, it's literally exploding and erupting to the surface now. And it's cleanup time. And that for people, that are hypersensitive, that are intuitive, that are more deeply emotional and, feel everything, it's an extremely tough time. And a lot of people have opted out as well. There's a lot of that as well. But if we sign this contract to be here now, it's for a reason. And that doesn't mean it's
1,000%.
going to be easy.
No,
But
our souls all knew what we were getting into. This is a massive shift in consciousness.
yeah,
And we are all here. So we are brave souls for being here. And even if people don't even understand the words that I'm saying, I mean, I think your whole audience will get it. But even if there are the people that don't understand even the words that I'm saying, they are still here for a massive reasoning, because their awakening is still happening. It's just
yeah,
everyone's awakening is going to look different.
and have its own timeline. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
1,000%. It's in its own timeline.
Mm.
And yeah, actually, I just wrote something about that this morning, because there's a lot of people, I talk about it. I got my implants out, my breast implants, they were killing me. I was so sick. And I talk about that. But then there's so many people that are like, that got them out, that are yelling at the other people that have it and calling them names. And I'm like, listen, everyone needs to go on their own time. And I said, you can have the biggest fake tits in the world, and as long as you're nice to me, I'm still going to love you. Like, it doesn't matter, because that's your journey. And then when you see that you're ready and you understand more about it, then you'll do what you need to do. But like, it's all in our own time. Like, I could never yell at someone else for doing something just because I got mine out at a certain time, and other people still have them in. It's their own journey.
Yeah. It's almost a natural side effect when you first start awakening. I mean, I feel like I was that person that was just preaching, when I first started
Yeah, I
accepting,
get it.
my truth and blasting open and awakening. I was just like, oh, this is the truth. And I have to just like
Yeah,
share my light with
totally.
everybody. And but again, it's exactly what you're saying. That's not responsibility, and it's not loving either. Right. If somebody came to us, I always give this example of a dragon. Like, there's the big mama dragon that's learned how to harness her fire, and she barely ever will spit her fire.
Mm.
But a baby dragon that just realizes its fire is like, just like starting
Yes.
wildfires everywhere. And the mom's just like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this child? But I
I
think
love that.
that's what happens, right? I remembered when I was really just starting to re-accept who I truly am and my gifts and my powers, because yes, my first memories are with my angels, my fairies, with my guides. But at 6 years old, I was completely bullied, shut down for it. And I then did shut it down. Well,
You got sick. You got physically sick, right?
I developed severe eczema
Huh?
literally the day after that. And then I suffered from severe eczema for 20 years until, and, I had told my angels to go away and never come back. Obviously, they didn't go away.
Yeah.
I just consciously severed that deeper communion with whatever's beyond the veil, and my eczema was my greatest guide back to my truth. It was the quote unquote disease that helped me realize my dis-ease to then come back into ease. I'm so grateful for my eczema, because it really, imagine if it was something that I couldn't see, that didn't start growing up my neck and my face, that was
Yes.
so debilitating that I had to do the inner work, So we all get certain things for a reason. And when we really, I mean, you with your, story, your health journey and everything.
Woo! Oh, I am still like, I have moments where I'm like, shit, I cannot believe I just survived through that. 5 years. 5 year. I mean, I'm still doing stuff to heal my body,
Yeah.
because Lyme is a wrecking ball. It goes through. There's still, my liver needs cleansing, my kidneys need cleansing still, my gut needs cleansing. There's still things that I'm doing, but like, my God, am I so much better? Yes. Wow. Like, I still can't believe I went through what I went through. It was horrific. But again, that was contracted for my soul journey. I needed to understand myself. I needed to love myself deeper. I needed to be present with my body. And there were so many deep lessons with this. And it was going to happen. Leaned in to my soul, and I knew that I wasn't here on earth just to be sick. I just knew. I would tell my best friend who lives in Australia, she would FaceTime with me daily because I was not good. And I would say, I didn't come to earth to be sick. I said, this is a moment, but I said, I did not come here. I knew in my soul, I did not come here just to be sick. It was an experience, but it wasn't my end. end results. Like I wasn't living the rest of my life like this. No way.
You were not going to accept that for the rest of your life.
Nope, nope. And that's why I didn't share about it for years. You know, I didn't know exactly for years, but I didn't share about it.
Mhm.
And Spirit told me, do not at the moment, like as I was healing, it got
Yeah.
better and I shared. But in the beginning, they said, do not tell people you have Lyme, because then they are going to look at you as Danielle with Lyme and you're not going to heal, because they're going to hold that collective frequency. And so I didn't tell people until probably 3 years in of what I was really going through. I mean, I shared that I was having health difficulties, but I was also in it. So like, I just had to be in it and I had to figure it out. Like, we don't have to share everything while we're going through it. We have
No.
to be in it. And I was like, I didn't even know what was going on, you know?
Did you share it with your closest best
Yes,
friends and family?
yes, yes,
Mhm. Yeah, but just not publicly. Yeah.
yes.
Oh my goodness, we could speak about everything and more. I love you so much. Thank you
Love
for your
you.
bravery, for your all the beautiful wisdom that you let channel through you. It really is a blessing. And to be continued. I'm sure you'll pop on here in other seasons, but it's been such a pleasure shining a light on you, and just thank you for all your offerings. How can people connect with you? What are your final closing words that you would like to share with us?
My final closing, closing, my final closing words are actually just a download that I got just the other day on Saturday night in a
Mm,
deep meditation. And it is, no matter what is going on, you are worthy, right? You are worthy. And it was that simple. You are worthy right now, no matter what you look like, what you make, stories, you are worthy right now. So that is my closing line. And they could get in touch with me through Instagram. I think that's probably the best way. I am Danielle Paige. Please note that there are tons of fake accounts. I don't do them. I will never DM you. I'm not DMing you. Please don't send me. I get hundreds of messages a day. I know there's fake accounts. Instagram does nothing about it. Please don't send it to me. Just block and delete and move on with your life. Don't pay someone. I will never DM you. And they're like charging $60. And honey, my rates are not $60. So that's how you know. That's how you know it's not
ain't
me.
a basic bitch program.
That's a basic bitch. My reading would no, they're like at least minimum 500, if not up to 1,000. So it's not $60. So I'm not DMing you. I don't even have time to search for clients. I don't need to search for clients. So I say that with love and respect, because then people have paid and yelled at me and I'm like, it ain't me. I don't know what to tell you. So
Crazy. There's fake accounts of Standing Light. It's
everywhere. I know. And Instagram doesn't do anything about it. So
No,
it's like,
no. So disclaimer, everybody.
or my website is DaniellePaige.com. PAIGE.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sending you so much love, and keep shining that beautiful light, inspiring all of us.
You
Thank
too.
you. Thank you.